Previously on Up at Noon.
And then Mike Khaleesi shows up with his brother Legolas, and they're kind of femme, but it doesn't really matter because Conan the Barbarian takes them over and over and over again anyway, and they make little baby dragons. Meanwhile, in Rivendell, Tony Stark's family is totally pissed off because Tony's dead, and they can't find the Mark I armor, but they need it because Burt Lancaster's family is constantly trying to attack him with Willow.
Game of Thrones sounds awesome.
It's the only game that matters.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Up at Noon. Wow, are you guys excited for this Games of Thrones? Or I've never heard of it. I mean, I'm more of a Nashville guy myself. Magical dragons, decapitated horses. They can't hold a country candle to the hometown heartbreaks of the music capital of the world. I just love it. This is not a joke. If you are not watching ABC's Nashville, you are f***ing up. Huge show today. Brian Altano is here to tell us what the future looks like now that the CEO of EA Games has stepped down and BioShock Infinite creative director Ken Levine stops by to spill the secrets on the biggest game of this year so far. But first, the news you care about. Random printout, Dave Toole's American Express bill. Please pick up your printouts. Oh. EA is up for the worst company in America for the second year in a row. Come on, EA. Is there anything you won't annualize? They put out a lot of sports games. You get it. You'll get it. In a recent interview, James Cameron stated that Peter Jackson has it easy since he has books to rely on when he's making the Lord of the Rings movies. Whereas Cameron had to come up with the stories for his movies by himself. Cheer up, James. Maybe you'll get lucky and another boat will sink. Tit Tunic. They did not try hard on that title at all. G.I. Joe Retaliation opens this weekend, and while it will probably make a ton of money, it is not the movie you should be excited to see. No, believe it or not, that honor goes to a little gem called Tyler Perry's Temptation. I am not kidding. This movie looks amazing, legitimately. I know you don't believe me. Let's watch the trailer together. I will tell you why this is good. Then you can go watch it, without me talking over it. Sure, we're in a city. Look at all these women come in. They're in a women business. But then look, Vanessa Williams is in it. You remember her? Then this chick, sure, that's Kim Kardashian before Kanye West, before the baby. Right now, Kim is like, no, this outfit doesn't work for you. And she's like, well, yours looks sluttish. And Kim's like, what do you mean? Then, okay, now these two, she comes home and collapses on the bed. This is her husband. They've been married for like 17 years. The trailer explains it. But she's all like not happy with her career, obviously, because Kim Kardashian's being a bitch and Vanessa Williams is being a bitch. For a while, we debated in the office if the husband here was Kenny from Cosby Show. Pretty sure it's not. Sorry if that came off as racist, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Now, okay, so this guy here, they call him the Mark Zuckerberg. Look at him. He's the Mark Zuckerberg. He's in charge of the new Facey Space. He's this big deal, and they're all like, and then here, he's all like, I see you running in the park. And she's like, oh yeah, you're the one with your shirt off. All the girls are looking at you, and that's why they notice you. And then look at he's all like, you notice me. And she's stumped. He f***ing nailed her. Here we go. This is the key point. He forgot her birthday. Second year in a row, he forgot her birthday. I still get updates on my ex-wife's birthday via the iPhone. Is he not dialed into any technology that reminds you of dates? Now he's calling, the handsome guy's calling, he's like, if you want me, you have to say me you want me. So then here, now they're running at the park. Look at the f***ing abs on this guy. Now, she runs into this biker. The biker clearly wasn't moving quickly. I don't know how this happened. She's knocked down, her ankle's hurt, and look, he's all like, I would never forget your birthday, oh, that your ankle's hurt. Back to Facey Space playing here. But Face Space guy is all like, well, what do you dream about when you go to bed? And hold on, here it comes. You. That is a pimp move. Now look, she's shaking her head a little bit, no. But she clearly gives in pretty quick, but she's getting dropped off. Now they're fighting. Now they're not happy. This is back to the marriage. They're not happy. Now Brandy's showing up. And let's not beat around the bush. Brandy is looking wrecked. Holy shit. Brandy. She's crying, the husband's crying, the mom's in the back there. But look, look at that fucking Face Space guy hit her. This movie is an onion. There's so many layers. And then you gotta imagine that Face Space guy getting punched through the glass with the husband, or vice versa. Confessions of a Marriage Counselor. And that's the other thing we didn't talk about, of course, is that the woman in the thing with Vanessa Williams, she's like running like a dating site for millionaires or some shit like that. And I guess that's why there's a million girls working there and not a million. That part I can't explain yet, but when we see the movie, we'll know more. So I understand that G.I. Joe has explosions and the White House getting bombed out. You should probably have already seen Olympus Fallen. You already know what that's all about. Heads up, too. Thanks for everybody pointing out. Last week in Up at Noon, we said Morgan Freeman was the president of Olympus Has Fallen. A lot of you nerds wrote back and said, no, he's like Secretary of State. Aaron, f*** you. All right? It's a goddamn comedy show, all right? I'm going to go write about video games after this. Temptation. Tyler Perry's Temptation. Woo! Better than G.I. Joe. More show for you, believe it or not. Despite a slew of user problems, SimCity has sold over 1.1 million copies. So just like real cities, the rich guys that own the place are getting richer, while the poor folks just trying to make their way in the world are totally f***ed. Thank you, Greg Atlas. A pity laugh if I've ever heard one on Up at Noon, but that's why we love him. Annotate to his interview. Yeah. And finally, after 6 years, EA CEO John Riccitiello has stepped down from his position with the company, taking blame for the company's recent financial shortcomings. To tell us where the company is headed next, here is EA's newly appointed Chief Executive Officer, Brian Altano. Brian!
Yeah! Wow! Man, happy people for once. Thanks, Greg. Look, EA hasn't exactly had the best public image with gamers in the last few years. People think we're a soulless, evil corporation, hell-bent on destruction, as we lead the death march towards world domination and Satan's arms. Not gonna lie, we're a little bit guilty for that. But you know what? Today, we're turning around. Are you ready for a brand new EA?
Yeah, well, what's the plan, Brian? I'm totally ready.
All right. Well, Greg, we're going to make games fun again. Power to the players. No more expensive DLC. No more that always online mandatory bullshit. No more recycled ideas every year. Oh, and SimCity, it works like a dream. Whenever you want it to. Because we're here for the gamers. Are you ready for the adventure and freedom of fun?
Brian, this is the best news I've ever... I mean, you know, I had my doubts when you took office, but I couldn't be happier. I love a good redemption story.
Exactly. Also, I think I just hit an old lady in my car on the way over here.
Whoa, what the f***, Brian? Did you call the cops?
Oh, what? No way, Greg. 10-second rule. If you kill somebody's grandma with your car and you don't call the cops for 10 seconds, nobody can arrest you. It's the law.
First of all, that is an absolute lie, and it's also completely insane. I mean, what about all the new face of EA, power to the players stuff you just said?
Oh, God. She's in like 12 pieces. Well, I hope they have glue in heaven.
Brian Altano, everybody. Anybody else notice that when he was doing air quotes, he was using these fingers too? Like it was like full-on claw quotes. Anyways, I hope somebody can save that woman. Speaking of saving a woman, Greg Way, BioShock Infinite is all about saving one. Her name is Elizabeth, and my guest name is Ken. Maybe someday they'll find love. Ladies and gentlemen, Ken Levine. As I live and breathe, Ken Levine. Ken, how are you?
Nice to see you, man.
It's nice to see you too. We've got this new interview set up. So far away from me.
We could do laps or something.
If we should get one couch, then we can just sit there and spoon each other. This is a big moment for Up at Noon. You are one of the most requested guests. You see it on your Twitter all the time, you say.
Yeah. People always say, why aren't you going on that show? Why aren't you going on that show? Why aren't you going on that show? And I said, well, here the fuck I am.
Thank you. I'm glad that we've finally settled something here. We finally got you here. Why are you one of the most requested guests, do you think? Why do people love you so much?
Look,
the face.
Look at that. I don't know. I mean, Oh, come on, man. That's a weird question to ask me. How do I know?
You like that? It was the first one, too.
You
I don't even care about your game. I just want to know why you think you're so cool.
If I could guess why people, I do my best to maintain, as best as I can, as honest a dialogue with, like, one of the reasons I like Twitter so much is because it just lets you interact with people directly. And, you get people asking questions all the time, and you can't answer every question, obviously, like story questions and things like that right now are out. But I think they're desperate to have somebody who's free enough to just try to tell them stuff that's just not layered with 17 layers of
PR speak.
Yeah, PR speak. I've had enough experience doing this that I know that's actually counterproductive because you become somebody that, if you can't, how can you tell somebody what they're going to like? You can't.
I do it all the time. I review the game, and I'm like, you won't like this. Don't get this game.
Yeah, but I'm the most biased guy in the world, right? Like,
yeah,
of course I'm going to like the game. It's, it's the game I worked on, so.
So now, how did you not go mad coming in to make BioShock Infinite? BioShock, the original, beloved. I think G4 had it really high on their top 100 games of all time. Why didn't you just stop? Just get out while you're good.
That's a good question because I think to some degree you could make an argument, Greg, that like, it's like you ever see that episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza decides if he makes a funny joke, he's like, I'm out.
Yep.
And like, you want to go. You want to, if you do something that people like, to some degree, you're just sort of putting yourself at risk for doing something people, don't like. But that's why BioShock Infinite we sort of started from a very different place and decided to do things that we hadn't done in BioShock. And I think it made a lot of people scratch their heads when we originally announced it. It's like, wait, what? It's not in Rapture. It's not this. It's not that. But I think that if you start competing against yourself, you can get into a really weird place in your life. And so I think that would be it could be a real problem if you're not careful.
But you've been careful, you think, with Infinite.
Yeah, well, it's a very, it is, what people tell me, it's very much a BioShock game, but it's also completely different. And the things that were different were the hard parts, like, having this Elizabeth with you, having this floating city, having just sort of starting, like throwing out all those things we had. We had Andrew Ryan and Big Daddy and Little Sisters and cool music and cool visual space.
So now lame music, lame visual
now
space.
It's all terrible. But that's the risk, right? Like you do stuff. It's hard enough to do stuff that anybody thinks is cool at all, and they like to say, "Well, all that stuff you thought was cool, well, we forget about it."
Done.
But it's still very much. But we knew, but we couldn't until we give people the controller. We knew they wouldn't understand how it's still a BioShock game. So they saw the beginning and started playing with it. It could have ended. The stuff we ended up could have been completely uncool. Who knows?
So, was that a fear? It's been coming a long time, this BioShock Infinite. Yeah. A long time ago, we sent this guy named David Clayman over there. David Clayman, exactly, who's that? Nobody knows. It was like 8 years ago we sent him to go play the game, then he left to do other things. But he came back, I remember, and said the game was looking really cool, but it wouldn't be out for like another 2.5 years. And then even then it got delayed and stuff. You're talking about getting the controllers in people's hands for them to understand it, really.
Yep.
That's been a long time coming.
Yeah, I think,
were there just restless nights of, oh my God, no one's going to like this game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think if you don't have those nights, then you're doing something wrong because you should always have a healthy fear of failure at all times. Like, because if you don't, you just like, if you think you're God's gift, you're going to not push yourself hard enough. It's not to say you shouldn't make decisions and be confident about those decisions. Because,
so do you think that makes you hard to work for and work with? You're this crazy person, right? Yeah, I don't like that. I like this. We're doing it. We're going.
I'm sure it can seem arbitrary, because look, at the end of the day, somebody's got to make the decisions, right? The taste decisions. And that's what I am. I'm the guy whose taste.
You're the taste maker.
No, I'm the taste decider.
Okay.
The script and stuff I actually make it, but I have to look and say, does this fit BioShock Infinite? And sometimes, if you're a guy who's been working on something for weeks and then all of a sudden,
you saunter in there.
I saunter in there, I go, well, this isn't going to work. I'm sure that sucks. I'm sure. Look, and I do it with my own work. I throw out tons of my own work because it's not. If it doesn't support the game, it doesn't support the game. But it's not like there's some objective source that can tell you oh yeah, this is going to be in the game, and and everybody looks up oh, okay, thanks. It's all guesswork, and it's all your gut, and it's all your taste, and then you may wake up 2 weeks later and be like, well, you know what? Because I changed that over there, now this no longer works, and I have to change that. So I'm sure it can be frustrating.
So then for you as a person, you seem, I follow you on Twitter like you're saying, you're this creative type, always kicking out these ideas, doing these different things. Is it hard to be on one project for so long? For me, it would seem like you'd have a million different game ideas, so now that you finally get one going, you want to kind of get it done and get on to the next.
That's a good question. No, because honestly, a game like this has enough, there's enough, it demands enough ideas from you that you really don't spend a lot of time. And I don't put a lot of a value in ideas, like just ideas in their own. Execution is everything, like how you execute on an idea. So lots of people, I got letters like I got a letter from this lawyer who was like, hey, Ken, you don't know me, but I'm a lawyer, and I have this great idea for a game, and I would be willing, if you split the profits of me, for your team to develop my idea into a game. And I was like that is the worst pitch probably ever made. Because ideas, look, they're cool, but they're a starting point. They're an absolute starting point. And so I don't really spend a lot of time on ideas because I can come up with a million ideas. Like if I spend the rest of the day trying to come up with game design ideas, I could do it, but they would all be, none of them would be worth much unless like we sort of could take one of them and really run with it. So no, I found BioShock Infinite was more than enough complexity for me to spend the last 4 some odd years on.
So where did that idea start then for BioShock Infinite? Did you ever think about going back to Rapture? Did you want to do something there, and then this kind of sprung off on the side?
Yeah, well, we thought about it, but then we couldn't come up with something that we couldn't find the angle of attack,
Sure.
And we couldn't say like, what's the thing that's going to make us want to spend years of our life on this? Because Andrew Ryan's nephew shows up, and like it's just not like we don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
We actually spent 6 months prototyping something else, and it just wasn't working for us. And we thought it would work, but it just wasn't working for us. So we sort of got a meeting together with all the sort of senior creatives of the company and said, well, what should we do? The clock's ticking here. People are paying us money to not produce things at this point. And we said, well, what about a BioShock game? Like, well, we already talked about that. And somebody said, well, what if it was like set in what if we threw out all the rules and just chose, try to find what the heart of it was, and is the heart necessarily Rapture? The more we thought about it, the more we realized it wasn't. And we had all been reading a book called Devil in the White City at that time, which is about the 1893 World's Fair, and we're all kind of into that period, excited by that period. Once somebody mentioned that period, we all got really excited. Everybody in the room, and that almost never happens at Irrational. Like usually you have
back at work.
Yeah, you have some guys excited about something, but everybody's like, no, that sounds stupid, and so people got really excited, Greg, and we just started running with it. Then the City in the Sky thing, and then it just 4.5 years later, here.
Finally, tomorrow it comes out. Exciting. This will go up on Monday.
Oh,
okay. You're like, no, it does not come out tomorrow.
You just blew my mind.
I know you wanted to avoid the juggernaut that is Walking Dead Survival Instinct, so you wanted it next week is when you're really targeting out there. I mean, it's weird that it's done. Yeah, it's finally there. It's finally gold and done.
Yeah.
So what is the office like right now then? Not that you're in it. You're traveling the world right now.
Yeah, I haven't been there in like 3 weeks because I've been doing press tour stuff.
Yeah.
But we're working on as soon as when we finish the thing, so a lot of people are off. Catching their breath, getting to know their families and things
oh, you've really gotten tall.
Who's this? Oh, that's my son. And then I've been doing this press stuff, and then I'll probably take some time off. But we're thinking about starting to get our plans together for the DLC, and then we need to sort of form a group and say, well, what's after that? What's the next thing? We haven't even approached that yet.
Sure. Is that a tiring life to lead? It's like Miley Cyrus, the Climb. I'm sure you're familiar with the song, but there's always going to be another mountain. All right, you've conquered this one. Now you already have to start thinking about the next one so you don't starve.
I think the challenge is you make sure you're not climbing the same mountain over and over again, because then you're not proving anything to anybody or yourself. You're just sort of saying, I'm not dead yet. I can still do that, and I think that's a danger. And I think you keep chasing, you can chase that forever, and you have to be really careful. And that's one of the things I'm proudest of BioShock Infinite is how much we sort of, what we didn't do versus what we did do to some degree. I'm very proud of what we did do, but also the fact that we could have done, a lot of, and it's not just the company, it's not the publishers want that degree of comfort. They want the annualized sort of safe thing.
They want the moneymaker, yeah.
Yeah, they want the standard thing, and they want predictability. And that's the thing that sort of I think is anathema to sort of how we think, is that kind of predictability can lead to a real sense of staleness. But, also BioShock is, we sort of ended up making a franchise for ourselves that is a really difficult franchise to manage and a really difficult franchise to sort of move forward on and plan. And Infinite is, and that's one of the reasons it took so long, is because we wanted to make sure that when people played it, they had that same kind of excitement they had when they played the first game. But it's also 4 or 5 years later, and so the stakes have gone up and the expectations have gone up.
Right. Was there, a pushback from, or any kind of rubbing the wrong way with 2K, as far as like you talked about, you were trying to do something different, then you're like, we're going to do BioShock, but BioShock isn't Madden, right? Like, it isn't something that's annualizable, and it's going to be out every time here, so you're coming out and you're making this different game, right? Is that hard? Does it get to be this weird thing of creativity versus publicity or marketing or anything like that?
I think the compromise was they wanted a game, I think very reasonably, that they wanted a BioShock game before 5 years, and so they very reasonably wanted that, and I just said that, it just wasn't the right thing for us. And the way I work is either I'm doing something or I'm not doing something. I'm like either completely, on board, or I'm. It's like go God, do what you got to do your thing and go make a good game. But and that was okay. I mean, I understand that, but it wasn't something that I saw irrational doing. Yeah.
So you said in the beginning, right? You can't tell people on Twitter why to buy BioShock Infinite.
Yeah.
Tell people on here why to buy BioShock Infinite. You're manipulating the times and the spaces and stuff.
I can tell you why I like it.
There we go. That's good.
I like it because I think games do one thing better than any other medium. What they do is they put you in a world and they let you be the driver. Movies can't do that. Books can't do that. Comic books can't do that. It's always that those are authorial media. Those are always the author is driving everything, whether the director or the writer, et cetera, is driving everything. Where, I was just talking to Ryan and Andrew, and we were talking about, the game and things they saw and things they didn't see. And that's one of the things that's most frustrating as a developer, that people didn't see yourself, but it's also the most exciting thing as a developer, because if you trust the gamer, you know that the value they get out of finding stuff is so powerful. They feel they found. And Infinite is a game that's about, it really is a game that makes you, I think it's close to more than anything. I'm reasonably comfortable in saying it makes you a participant in a narrative, not an observer. A lot of games do cutscene gameplay, and they sort of switch back and forth. But you really are a participant in this story, and you really have a relationship with this woman, with Elizabeth, and that's something that no other media could do. You can observe two people in a movie having a relationship, a connection of some kind. You can't in a game. And when she, looks to you and she feels something about you and you've had a reaction to her, like that's a powerful moment. And you can't do that in any other game.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, BioShock Infinite out tomorrow. Go get it. Ken, you're one of the most interesting men in the world, and I love you dearly. Thank you for coming on. That's our show, everybody. A huge thank you to Brian Altano, Ken Levine, and of course, my audience. Huh? Look at their smiling mugs over there. If you want to be in that audience, go.ign.com/upatnoon for details. As always, Brian and I will be answering comments on the IGN version of this video. The first hour it's live. So let's make beautiful magic together with our words and our body parts. We'll be back next Monday, but until then, I'm going back to bed. DaveFenoy.com.